Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. We're your hosts, Kiera Dent
and Dr. Mark Costas.
Mark and I had this crazy idea that maybe we could combine a dentist and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. And Dental 18 podcast was created.
I'm a practicing dentist, a multiple practice owner, a dental performance coach, and the founder of the Dental Success Institute.
I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, current practice owner, and international dental consultant. Mark and I don't just understand you, we are you.
Our goal is to positively impact the world of dentistry by sharing our lessons learned from the road in hundreds of dental offices.
Two perspectives, one mission, to help dental professionals reach their full potential. Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. All right, Dental 18 podcasters, Kiera Dent here with Dr. Mark Costas again today, and we're doing part 2 of our Jello conversation that was leading into talking money. Here is the talking money part. How are you today, Mark?
I'm doing great. How are you, Kiera?
Good. Should we just dive right into talking money and pick up where we left off?
Let's talk money, Kiera.
Let's talk money. All right. So as we talked about in part, we obviously love talking money because we do business and so it's super fun. So money is just money for us. So let's talk money and get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But from our last episode, we talked about how to have those conversations with our doctor because ultimately the reason talking money sometimes for business owners, the doctors, team members is it feels kind of icky. Mm-hmm. And one of the points that I love that we brought out on the last episode was how you have to be 100% confident with your doctor. So that way it doesn't feel bad to recommend treatment. It doesn't feel manipulative to recommend treatment because you're 100% behind your doctor. You know they are ethical, honest, upright. They do the best interest for their patients. And now all we have to do is be able to get comfortable talking money because we're 100% behind our doctor, behind our team, behind everybody working in our office, that now we've just got to get comfortable telling the patient how much this actually costs because we are a business that does require payment for services rendered.
Totally. We have to get over that mental, psychological barrier that, that we are doing the patient a disservice. A lot of people, never truly get that buy-in that what is being presented to the patient is in the patient's best interest. And if you don't believe that, you're never going to be comfortable having money conversations. Your case acceptance rate will be dreadfully low because patients can read that body language. They can read your intention. They can feel that energy that you don't want to go there and talk about that. If you're not confident about it and you don't have complete buy-in and you don't believe that you're ethically doing the best thing for the patient, then it doesn't matter what you actually say in the conversation.
Not at all. And Mark, we've talked about this a lot of times and I want to bring it back up because I love that you say this regularly of, they're the statistics and you and I should really hone in on the numbers, but it's the 7% are the words you use. And then the rest of the conversation comes from tone and body language. So if you're uncomfortable, the patient sitting in front of you, they're going to hear your uncomfortable tone and they're going to see your uncomfortable body language. So you can have the perfect scripted words, but that's only 7%. That's not even 10% of the conversation you're having that they're actually getting. Yeah. It's more the body language and tone that you're coming across that will make money actually money or uncomfortable for you. So getting comfortable, and I will be wildly honest, I was so uncomfortable, but I will say in all the coaching that I've done, the number one thing that I hear, and Mark, please add in if you hear another side of it, because ultimately we want to give our listeners all aspects because we want to help as many people as we can. But the number one thing I hear, the reason people have a hard time talking money is because they 100% connect themselves, their life, and assume that the person in front of them is just like they are.
Oh,
and so if
so true. Oh my gosh, it's so true. It's so true. If you have a financial coordinator that is having financial trouble for whatever reason or has recently filed for bankruptcy, they potentially could be delivering a treatment plan totally differently than somebody that's in a different financial situation and has a different financial reality. It's so true. Somebody that really, really values their insurance and in their own personal life refuses to do anything outside of what is covered by insurance. We hear that all the time. Those people present treatment according to their own personal bias. And that is totally wrong because everybody is coming from a different place. And once again, if my mom needed a medical procedure or a dental procedure, and it was outside the scope of what her insurance would pay, and she really truly needed it, I would do everything that I could to get that money together outside of insurance and just make it happen for her. And so would my dad.
For sure.
And that is just my own personal bias. My health and my family's health is the most important thing. And I don't even consider money. So we have to make sure that we don't impart our own personal bias on our treatment plans.
Definitely. And I love that you said that, because I know some of our listeners are probably like, well, of course, Mark, money's not an issue because you're this like super successful dentist. Like money's never an issue for you. And that's what I've thought a lot of times. But guys, like my husband and I were in pharmacy school. We were dirt poor. Like we were flat out broke. And when I say that, I mean, we lived in Arizona. Mark lives in Arizona. We lived in Phoenix. And I wouldn't even turn the AC on. We would actually take squirt bottles and spray our sheets at night and turn the fan on real high because we couldn't afford air conditioning. Like,
wow.
So dumb. Like we were so dirt poor. Jason literally slept on popsicles one night because it was so hot. We were just sweating, and he like got otter pops out of the freezer. Like when I say we were dirt poor, and yet I got my appendix out when we were in pharmacy school and we had to figure out how to pay for it. It wasn't like, Jason actually did tell me, like, Kiera, I don't really think you're having a problem. I think you just have bad gas or have kidney stones. Like, I don't know what's going on with you. So I was super happy when they told him that my appendix had to come out. But
you're super happy about it. You're like, haha, see?
Super bummed because I was like, and I won the conversation, but I'm like losing by having surgery and bills. But regardless, like the point was, even at my lowest of low, when we were dirt poor in pharmacy school, can't afford anything, like I would scour the ads for free food, like literally so poor. We still like health tends to be a priority no matter what state of life you are financially. And so if you know that, that's where I say like go in when you're talking money in a dental office that everybody's going to accept treatment. And I say that with like wild confidence, because if you have that mentality that if your doctor is the rock star that you believe they are and they diagnose this treatment, we as treatment coordinators, as people selling treatment, whether you're a dental assistant, you're a treatment coordinator, you're a front office, I don't care who you are, because I believe all of us participate in that project of getting patients to say yes. Mm-hmm. If you believe your doctor is the rock star and they've diagnosed treatment, guess what? Your job as a team member is to get that patient to say yes to treatment. That is our job as a team. Our doctor diagnoses, our job's to find the solution. So when you go in to talk to the patient about getting their treatment, your job is, I go in and I believe every patient wants to say yes. And the reason I have that mentality and I coach people to do this is because if you believe they'll say yes, you will present far differently than if you go in and you're like, oh gosh, they can't afford this, or their insurance is about to be maxed. Like you build all your own excuses that you're fighting against without the patient even saying anything. You've done that to yourself because you created the stories that you're believing. And so you're presenting treatment on things that are not even real. Yeah. Whereas if I walk in and say, they're going to say yes to this, guess what? I'm way more solutions driven than I am problems driven with that mentality right there alone.
Oh man. Good stuff, Kiera. You know, it's so true too. We make these financial assumptions about people, maybe about the way they dress or what they do for a living. You know, a couple of my practices are in really remote areas up here in central Arizona. And, you know, we have farmers and we have people that work in ag and people that work with livestock, and they come in with dirty cowboy boots and an old rusted out pickup truck. And we present treatment to them and they'll go to their truck and bring out like a coffee can full of cash. It's crazy.
Totally.
And if we would have made, you know, any kind of financial, if we would have made a financial judgment about them, maybe we wouldn't even have presented the crown or the implant. And, for them, that's their top priority, is making sure that they have all of their teeth and that their teeth are in the best shape. It's interesting, the judgments, the snap judgments that we make based on our preconceived notions of what people should look like, and, what their leanings are, their financial leanings are based on our own personal bias. I will tell you, this overlaps a little bit, Kiera, with our discussions that we have about phone skills. And I talk about this Q versus C concept a lot, categorization versus qualification. And the
I love
bottom
it.
line is, yeah, the categorization versus qualification basically means that it is not the front desk person's job that's answering the telephone to categorize or to qualify whether or not the patient is worthy of coming into the practice. They're to categorize the phone call, find out if it's a personal call, if it's a vendor, if it's an existing patient, if it's a new patient, and then follow the script accordingly or follow the call flow accordingly. That is their job, to categorize, not to qualify whether or not. Ask them what type of insurance they have and tell them that they can't come into the office or make it more difficult for them to come into the office. We're into the removing barriers business, not to creating barriers business. So the same thing.
Definitely.
We are not qualifying whether or not we believe this patient can afford it. We're not qualifying trying to guess what their reaction is going to be. We're going to ethically believe in the treatment plan. And we're going to do everything that we can to educate the patient as to why doing the service is in their best interest.
Oh, I love that, Mark. I love the Q versus C because I think it helps us just spin our brains a little bit and think differently than we have. Like, no, my job isn't to qualify. I'm just categorizing. Like, that's what my job is to do. And assume the yes. Assume patients will say yes. Same thing with doctors. Like, doctors even struggle with this in exams. Like, they don't look like they can afford this. So I'm just going to say that you need like 2 fillings and not the 7 crowns that I see in here.
Yeah.
Like, diagnose, be okay, be confident. That confidence piece, it's killer because you've got to be confident because whatever you project out there, your patients are picking up. They're picking up on your body language. They're picking up on your tone. So if you're confident in your diagnosing while being humble, so patients like you, being very likable, relatable, but be confident in your diagnosing doctors, spin it right over to your teams because your patient's pretty much already sold, if you will, when the doctor's confident. And then they come up and they're like, okay, how much is this going to cost? Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, everyone listening, I used to present treatment plans that were like $500 and struggle like crazy getting patients to say yes. I was not comfortable talking money. And then my final closing ones when I was in an office, I was doing between $30,000 to $70,000 treatment plans that I would get patients to say yes and pay for same day. And so like from $500 being uncomfortable up to, hey, let's buy a boat today, uncomfortable. It was and all I had to do, it was literally my mindset and who I was. Doctor said, you need this treatment. All right, Mark, guess what? It's your lucky day. You are getting implants and I'm so excited for you. Like, great. So you want to go the route of permanent, correct? Like that's what I'm understanding. Mm-hmm. Mark's all the way on board. Yes, this is what I want to do. Okay, sweet. So total is going to be $30,000. Let's talk about that. And I literally treat money just as money. That's all it is. It is a tool to pay for services. I'm not talking insurance. I'm not talking about payment plans right off the get-go, because another thing people do when they talk money is we're so uncomfortable talking money that instead of just standing firm of, all right, this is our total, bam, like I am confident in this, we're like, oh gosh, I'm so uncomfortable. So Mark, I'm going to throw every single possible discount at you that I can in hopes that I'm praying that you're going to say yes. Like, don't worry. Like I can also do 20% off if you buy today, and I can do this and I can do this and I can do this. And oh my gosh, just say yes. Like I'm like the desperate girlfriend trying to get you to still marry me when you've already told me you're breaking up and leaving me. Like none of that. We're not doing that. Be confident and pay attention to the art of silence. That is probably the number one thing I can tell you when it comes to talking money. Get comfortable talking money, but be okay to be silent. So I'm going to, for example,
I love this.
Mark came in.
Love this conversation.
Mark comes in. It's so good. Like these are early morning. Like this is what makes Mark and I want to get up early and talk on podcasts because we both love this. Mark, what are you so excited about?
Love this stuff.
So going through that, Mark comes in. I've got a big treatment plan. Let's just say 5,000. He comes in. He needs 2 crowns. Mark sits down. I'm like, okay, Mark. So we've got some crowns to do today, right, Mark? You know that?
Yeah. I guess I do. Thank you for educating me on those gigantic metal fillings that are all causing my teeth to break. Yep.
So Dr. Costas is fantastic. I know he's going to do a great job with these 2 crowns. Dr. Costas does want to see you with getting both those crowns done together. So the total is going to be We already got you scheduled. I've got you coming in next week on Wednesday at 4 o'clock with Dr. Costas, because honestly, he wants to have that afternoon, and those afternoons are hard to come by. So your total is going to be $5,000 that day when you come in.
Okay. Is there any payment options, or do you guys take payments or anything like that?
Absolutely. And right now I'm going to point out, I paused. I allowed Mark to come. Of total's $5,000. We've got your appointment. He now is asking, like, are there any payment options? I didn't throw that out there because some patients are like, done, $5,000, fine, I'll see you Wednesday, and they're out the door. Mm-hmm. Other people want payment options, but I don't want to assume that they need payment options right from the get-go, because so many times we do this assuming that we have to create a solution to a problem that does not exist.
Right.
Mark did not tell me that he had financial problems. He did not tell me that he needed payment options. I don't want to assume that we have these problems. So instead, I pause and I allow Mark to think about, okay, I got to get this treatment done. I'm coming in next week on Wednesday. It's $5,000. Mark has to process through what's going on with those $5,000. Can he afford that? Does he need to work around that? So at this point, he's now told me, are there any payment plans? He hasn't said no to the treatment. All Mark's asking is, hey, we got to come up with a different solution. By all means. Absolutely, Mark. What are you kind of thinking? That way I can offer the best thing for you. What are you thinking would be comfortable for you? And I'll find the solution for you.
Well, I'm totally motivated to get the treatment done, but I don't have, my wife was recently sick, so we have a bunch of medical bills. So I would like to see if we could do some monthly payments. Is that possible? I could put a little bit down, but I wanted to see if you guys had some monthly payment options.
We absolutely have monthly payment options, Mark. Not even a problem. And I'm so sorry to hear about your wife. Is she doing okay?
Yeah, she's okay, but the bills are racking up, you know?
That's the worst. Like, totally understand. I know that that's happened in my family, and it is super stressful, but I'm really glad to hear she's doing okay. I'll make sure I work with you, and we can make this happen. Do you have like a monthly budget that works well for you that you're thinking of? That way I go in kind of where you are. Like, where are you at with that?
Yeah, I could probably do like maybe $300 to $400 a month.
$300 to $400 a month. That works super great. So a couple different options. One is we could do 50-50, $2,500. That would be 50% of your total. When you come in next week, Wednesday, I know you said you could put some down, and I'm not sure what you're looking at, and then break it up $300 or $400 a month after that. Is that feasible, or would you like another option?
No, I think that'll work. Actually, I could scrape together the 2,500. It's just the 5,000 all at one time would be a lot for me.
Perfect. And I will tell everyone out there listening right now, I was feeling a little uncomfortable even having this conversation with Mark in a role play scenario of like, he said he can't afford this. Like, could he really afford the 2,500? Like, that's me going pretty big. He said $300 or $400 a month he could afford. Like, a lot of treatment coordinators will just be like, oh, bam, here's care credit. Let me just whack this out. But for me, I'm thinking he said he could put it together. If I could do the 50-50 with him off the get-go, that's $2,500 I can pre-collect with him. It'll make, that's a good down payment. The bulk of the crowns will be covered. And then I just work with him on the remaining $2,500. Easy peasy, I can do that. But so many times we assume and we project instead of just offering what the best case scenario would be and waiting to see if the patient can do that or not. We just go for like the smallest, like we know it's a slam dunk. Yes, if I say like $50 a month for the rest of your life, they'll say yes to that. We're going to go that option.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And, there's so many different things you can put in your financial menu. We have a whole day course, Kiera, that you and I teach about this. Or was it 2 days? It was a 2-day course that we taught on
it was a 2-day course.
Case acceptance and treatment planning. And, there's a million things you can put on your financial menu depending on your style of practice. There's proceed finance, which has a much more liberal acceptance policy. I think it's 630 and above, and you have to make $24,000, and those patients are accepted. Obviously there's care credit. Everybody knows the limitations to care credit. You have to have pretty much darn near pristine credit to get accepted on that. And then we have different payment options like compassionate finance, which is Bruce Baird's company, where they will actually do the payment plans for you. They'll collect the money for you, and you have to accept payment over a longer period of time. Whatever that happens to be, there's lots of different scenarios as far as what goes on your financial menu. But I love the way that Kiera did that. First, you just mention the total and you're quiet and you wait to hear if there are any objections. And if there are objections, then you can categorize according to their objections. Don't qualify, but categorize based on their objections.
For sure. And I love Mark. Like, there are so many options out there, and there are so many different ways to present money. Like, you can go through, like, some people like to offer all the options right off the get-go. I'm a lazy person and I don't enjoy my AR being high, which is why I personally go for the full amount, because more often than not in my career, people have been able to pay more than I ever thought or assumed they could. Yeah. And so knowing that, learning that in my 15 plus years of doing it, and now coaching other offices and watching it still happen consistently, I personally like to go for that and just assume every patient's going to say yes and pay me 100%. And that might sound like callous, and it's not at all. It's literally a tactic I have had to train myself, because remember the $500 poor girl eating top ramen and not being able to pay for her appendix? Like, that is the person who came and was able to afford treatment, because the reality was people can find it in so many random ways when they believe in the treatment. So for me going in, I figure I can assume two different models. I can assume the model that people can't afford it and they're going to have to do payment plans. That's one story I can believe. Or I can believe the scenario of everyone is going to say yes to treatment and everybody can afford it, because that scenario is so much more empowering. I'm able to find easier and more creative solutions for people that will be working with me if I assume that. It's going to sound funny, but like, go in with the assumption that everyone will say yes to treatment. Don't be afraid of it, because when you believe that, you can believe whatever story you want. You can believe the empowering story of every patient says yes, every patient can afford it, or you're going to believe the story of patients can't afford it, they're all going to say no to me. You choose your story, you choose your fate. But this is literally how you can get patients to say yes, because I'm confident in who I am. I'm confident in my doctor. And ultimately, this is the treatment that needs to be done. Let's find the solutions, because I know you're going to say yes to this. But there is so much more we can go into this. But talking money is simply, money is only a resource to pay for services rendered. That's all money it is. It doesn't symbolize how wealthy I am. It doesn't determine my worth as an individual. It has nothing to do with that. So if you can drop those assumptions and recognize that money is only a tool to pay for services, and every patient is going to say yes to you, you will be shocked. So try that out this week. I know it. I've done this. I've had to coach myself through it, because that was not my natural state of being, but it was who I was able to morph myself into through lots of trial and error. So play with it. Be okay with making some mistakes. Be okay with having uncomfortable moments. Be okay with giggling about, like, oh, yep, I definitely said that. That's okay. That's how you learn and grow. And then money is simply just that. It's just a tool to pay for services rendered.
Oh my gosh. That was a great riff, Kiera. I love talking money. And, it's that big taboo subject that we all just need to get over. And even with all of your experience, you confided that you still feel uncomfortable when it comes to that discussion. You just have to get comfortable with that discomfort and push forward and try to avoid those preconceived, categories that we place people in.
Absolutely. Mark, as always, thanks for spending your early mornings with the Dental A team.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? It's my favorite way to wake up.
Best way to do it. All right, Dental A team members, go out this week, try it, try being comfortable in the uncomfortable, make money, just talking money. That's all it is, nothing more than that. And we will catch you next time. Thanks again, Mark.
Thanks, Kiera.
And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.